Campers, it's me, Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees. From Friday the 13th, I'm here with AJ, and he's got the juiciest slice ready for you. It's dripping with blood. Jason never dies.
What makes a horror film kill memorable, terrific, even in some way profound or poignant? Let's explore. Thanks for checking this out. If anything about it trips your fancy, please like, subscribe, and share.
Oh, yes.
Without further ado... The shuffling, shambling creature sneaking up on a distracted young woman represents the most terrifying thing of all. A rebellious young person with a head full of bluster and steam.
Jeff!
These siblings reunite as if it's been decades since their last meeting.
How are you, sis?
They're obviously both latchkey kids, but whereas Zoe seems like she came from somewhere, it feels like Jeff is something of a mystery man who blew in from locales unknown, hard-bitten and road-weary.
So when did Mom and Dad get back in the country anyway?
Raised by the mean streets of every town USA, the young man sounds a little jaded, maybe even a smidge hard-boiled.
Well, I talked to a guy at Dad's office and he said maybe the middle of next week.
Small talk will unearth some of Jeff's deep-seated feelings about the world, and reveal for such a young man he takes quite a conservative stance.
So what about you? What are you up to?
Broadening her horizons to ensure a future so bright she'll have to wear shades, she's been accepted to university.
What's your major? Aerobics. Aerobics?
Cue spiritual Heimlich. That show came all the way from Jeff's very soul.
You can't major in aerobics.
Whether her major sounds real is immaterial. What matters is future earning power. And her physique suggests she would do all right, something he maybe misses because he's her brother.
Well, it may not be higher education, but it's a degree, Jeff.
Exactly. It might not be glamorous, but it's a solid excuse to put off entrance into the real world a little while longer.
I'm almost afraid to ask you what your minor is.
Music videos.
Jeff is a high-strung, possibly neurotic teenager, far too young to be on the verge of a stroke, but here we are.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
And they joke that the bar is low today. Up is down, down is up. It's too confounding. Time has made Jeff's curmudgeonly viewpoint age like milk, but I think it can be agreed, rational or not, many folks' inner crotchety old porch sitter would be equally as outraged.
Yep, that stands up to scrutiny.
A stranger comes knocking the next morning, seeking a misplaced object.
There was a package, a crate. It was delivered here by mistake some time back.
This rough customer is Joshua Daniels, and he's traveled a long way to recover a crate containing a haunted television. Haunted how? Maybe the question is, how haunted? Yo Boob Tube disgorges zombies like clowns out of a clown car, and Daniels wants to prevent the worst from happening, but gets that galling resistance that arises from complete failure to make someone else give a crap.
Sorry, mister, there hasn't been any package. We just moved in.
You just moved in?
Making no bones about it, Jeff is so blasé he will prove no help at all.
Oh, sir, what about the people who were here before you? Where can I find them?
You got me, pal.
Explaining neither him or Zoe know anything, and why even his out-of-town parents would likely know even less.
But they probably wouldn't know anyway since my dad's company got us the place.
Knowing all that's on the line, Daniels has no choice other than to be persistent.
You see, it looks like an ordinary TV set, but it isn't.
The man's seriousness fails to make a dent.
More lives will be lost if it isn't found.
Since Jeff could be staring at a wall, he's anxious to end this interaction.
I forgot to brush my teeth, so I gotta go. Bye.
Learning firsthand the harsh reality that no one cares about anything outside their bubble, Daniels is equal parts bemused and infuriated.
Damn fool. You damn fool!
Those two are sure to be the best of friends. In the meantime, the TV proves to be a bit of a flagrant hussy.
I want you to come into the attic with me, Jeff. Come into the darkness.
Using a cloying enticement like a siren song to draw the young man like a moth to the flame. Even if it possibly harbors sexually transmitted diseases, a free TV is a free TV. Zoe harangues the boy about chores, so any inappropriate behavior with the telly will have to wait until the raking is done.
Hello there.
I didn't hear you coming.
As if carried in on a wave of fresh air and sunshine, a cute young lady appears to brighten his day.
I'm your new neighbor. Welcome to Shady Lane.
Oh, thanks.
Jeff hears opportunity knocking, a source of interest. Being the new guy in the neighborhood comes with some perks.
I'm Jeff Blair.
I'm April. Don't you hate it? Sounds like the smell they put on Kleenex.
And he cashes in on April's possible curiosity by casually tossing out an invitation.
I was just about to get some to drink. You want to come in?
All right. Do you mind if I take the dog in?
Yeah, sure.
The second they're inside, she's ready to shuck all responsibility.
Mind if I take the dog off the leash? He's wearing my arm out.
Sure.
Even if the sentiment is true,
I love animals.
Me too, but I don't count poodles as animals.
it seems like Jeff sees a pretty girl and can't help but put his best foot forward through that extra agreeableness that arises from romantic interest.
Funny you should say that. I hate poodles too.
With poodle hate permeating the air and making it a bit stifling, Chocolate, that's his name because he's obviously a scrumptious shade of chocolatey brown, needs some fresh air, maybe a bit of a constitutional to get his head on straight. Problem is, since they've been wandering around and hanging out in the nearby woods since escaping the TV, the little dauber runs afoul of a free-range zombie. Discovering her ward has gone missing, April is in a dilly of a pickle, all too aware of Chocolate's predisposition.
He likes to chase skunks in the woods, and when he finds them, he tries to mate with them.
To instigate rendezvous with wild animals, and the inherent problems in such dalliances.
Only skunks don't like to mate with poodles, so they spray him, and then he really gets turned on.
While searching, April has an interesting query.
Don't you find it a little creepy living in the murder house?
Living in the what?
It makes little difference that some guy was killed in his parents' new house, and how.
Holy shit.
When they're in the middle of an ordeal, to the misfortune of everyone with good taste, they find the poodle discarded like that rejected chocolate, tossed after a single nibble.
Oh, Christ.
Looks like a heart attack.
I would say that these zombies aren't the ravenously hungry types.
Son of a bitch!
Is to all our benefits. April recognizes the trouble she's up to her neck in, as if she were submerged in a cooking pot.
My goose is cooked. I could get reform school for this.
Poor Chocolate's doggy parents will be livid enough to make her life hell.
Well, if it's so important, they should have it stuffed and mounted.
The pair has no idea the real culprit behind the dog's untimely demise, watches menacingly from a short distance away. It's understandable the sight of that would trigger cardiac arrest in an older animal. That's the thing. These are some particularly ugly examples of the undead.
It's gonna take one hell of a story to cover my ass on this one.
When a young fellow likes a girl,
You were walking the dog on the leash.
he oftentimes falls into the trap of becoming a simpering and overly willing problem solver.
And some total jerk threw the ball to the dog, and he accidentally swallowed it.
Attempting to pluck solutions from out of the air, no matter how absurd.
All we have to do is push the ball down the dog's throat. They'll never know the difference.
This is one of those moments of truth.
That is really sick.
Such a reaction leaves Jeff a little crestfallen, But all hope isn't lost.
You think it'll work?
Since people don't question the veracity of pretty young women, I mean, they're pretty, April has stellar news.
It worked. You really saved me. I really owe you one.
So they bought it, huh?
Jeff had better be tethered down or he might float away on a cloud. Don't worry, he'll be brought crashing back down to Earth soon enough.
Like a charm. Only there's one little thing that you should know about.
Oh, this ought to be good. Really good.
You know how I was supposed to tell the Feldford about the chocolate?
If no good deed goes unpunished, what happens to someone a party to a morally ambiguous deed such as this?
Well, they asked me who, and your name just kind of popped into my mind.
Evidently, loss of reputation, maybe even time in juvenile hall or Boys Town. But hopefully it won't come to that.
My name.
I'm sure. Don't worry, Mr. Turcotte didn't think he'd press charges.
Having such a thing hanging over your head would be a good way to lose sleep and develop a nervous tic.
Besides, the important thing is that it worked, and, well, I'm gonna make it up to you.
Possible consequences aside, Jeff is suddenly feeling renewed enthusiasm.
You are?
Yeah, I am.
Well, my folks won't be out of town forever.
But if teenage girls are good at nothing else, they are experts at stringing along smitten boys willing to crawl through broken glass to follow them anywhere.
Why don't you come over to my place?
I'm sure I can't.
That giggle reveals everything. She knows the hook is set, and the dumb little fishy doesn't know a thing. Jeff is a little nonplussed.
Girls.
With no other attention forthcoming, the TV stands in and quickly makes things personal.
Too bad your little girlfriend couldn't come over and keep you company tonight.
Jeff is mystified but open to whatever might happen. Next thing you know, the mysterious lady has broken the fourth wall and is in the room with him.
I can't believe this is really happening.
Only she's having him on. A bit of teasing and toying to ensure blue balls.
Hey, where are you?
Well, enough of whatever all that was about.
That's it for me.
Jeff blames it all on the pot. To think, it wasn't nearly as potent as today, and he attributed all that to smoking a single joint. The whole escapade had a noticeable effect on him.
You are acting really strange.
Comfortable in his own skin, to avert suspicion he owns it.
That's the way I am. I'm a strange person.
Zoe probably assumes he's just feeling uncomfortable due to chafing from frequent masturbation. Anyway, the video dead.
It was the video dead.
Are up to some mayhem, doing away with April's father and the maid he's sleeping with. Necessitating the young woman stay with Jeff and Zoe. That night, reasserting some normalcy after a very abnormal day.
She's been through a lot for one day.
April is brushing her teeth before bed when a zombie sneaks up on her. Talk about terrible survival instinct. Surprising even the zombie, she drops like a fainting goat. Now that Jeff has skin in the game, the parts of April he'd like to touch, he's gung-ho to enlist in Daniel's campaign.
Of course I'll come back, Zoe. Come on.
Yep, famous last words. At least Daniel's, in his infinite wisdom, came prepared.
Oh, God.
He takes Jeff's reaction for trepidation.
I never said this would be pretty, Mr. Blair.
But the boy isn't afraid or freaked out at the sight of a chainsaw. Au contraire, the prospect excites Jeff on one of the most primal of primal levels, that of fandom.
My absolute all-time favorite horror movie is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
We have that in common. I would argue that between realism, brutality, and a fearless but far more tasteful approach than you'd think, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre emerges as one of the most solid horror pictures ever made.
I've seen it 6 times.
6 times? Quaint to think that back in the video store days, saying you've seen something 6 times would qualify you as a superfan.
There it is.
Anyhow, Jeff leads the way to a shack they can use as a strategic stronghold.
There's some bells in here. Couple bells.
Since these zombies have their own mythology,
But when the dead are around, those bells start rattling like an earthquake.
they inexplicably have a convenient early warning mechanism.
There's a bear trap in there, too. Put that someplace where it'll do some good.
Right.
As though Jeff has an inherent knowledge of these things. He gets to work placing that bear trap in those bells. Determining his best tactical position to potshot the video dead, Daniels discovers that poor April has already been made a zombie plaything, battered to death like a mouse caught by a house cat. Keeping that tidbit on the down low, since at this point it would be in Jeff's best interest to extricate himself from the proceedings, but Daniels needs his cooperation to pull this off. It's time to get down to business.
Who's setting that trap?
A trap? Great. What are we using for bait?
Pointed questions like that lead to terrific cutaways.
Oh no. There's no way I'm going through this.
I think the time to quibble is before you're hanging several feet off the ground. Once in the air, the argument is already lost. Jeff at least has the good sense to have one condition.
Give me the chainsaw. At least that way if they get to me, I'll have a chance to fight back.
No, wait. Those bells rang as the zombies appeared. Suckers for a flesh sack piñata, and wasted no time doing their damnedest to get Jeff before Daniels could pick them off one by one. Even with the others having fallen to the bombardment of arrows, Jeff knows the bride is, even on her own, very dangerous, especially when armed with a chainsaw. Daniels has his back, warding her off with these zombies' ultimate foil, a reflective surface. Quickly cutting the boy down, since she wandered off forlornly after the sight of her own visage bummed her out. They go in search of the bride. These zombies are a bit different in other ways too, able to be provoked, and she's none too happy her cohorts were cut down with arrows. And, after her own bit of trickery, seeks to strike an ironic blow. Running Daniels through with one of his own arrows. Hubris, where ego and wishful thinking cavort in sin, is the ultimate killer. Abruptly all on his own with one peeved off zombie, Jeff is forced to flee. Suddenly in a scenario exemplified in his favorite horror film, he learns firsthand what it's like to get chased down with a chainsaw. Oh, and that bear trap? It comes in handy. When running for your life, it's always great to have physically painful obstacles thrown in the mix, right? Just able to pry his way free, he regains his feet and makes his way into that decrepit shack. Hiding the worst thing of all, the truth about April's fate. Chain reactions play out to their inevitable conclusions. and even young men with everything to live for are willing to go out on their shields. Neither able to deflect the other's death blow, the bride might lose her head, but Jeff learns the downsides of disembowelment. The boy had guts. In the end, they were there for the whole world to see. At least film grammar tells us he went off into the light. All things considered, I think the bride came out better in that exchange. Other than a zombie getting decapitated while simultaneously dispatching a young man with a chainsaw, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan no less, in the immediate wake of him learning the object of his affection and driving force had suffered a gory demise, what makes these exits extraordinary?
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
The more spectacular elements aside, these ones are an unvarnished peek into the tragic mindset of the typical teenager of the era, and maybe even now. Nihilistic and without the purpose of the previous generations, ready to throw it all away on a whim. Since hers happened off-screen, including April as an exit might strain credibility, she was as good as dead when she fainted. But I would argue the mission to save her was the misguided motivation that made Jeff blunder into danger. Not to mention, being faced with the demoralizing defeat of her ugly undoing led directly to him throwing caution into the wind and racing headlong and heedlessly into a death he had surely in some way contemplated if the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was his favorite horror film, that of death by chainsaw. Interestingly, the classic never even came close to putting such gore on screen, relying on subtlety maintained until the sequel when, go figure, somehow it was Leatherface who got the chainsaw through the gut. You need to commend a backyard film that goes for the gusto and manages something almost on par with a studio-funded follow-up to a classic. Such an over-the-top sequence culminating in the unexpected loss of a character that seemed destined to go the distance also made this one a little better than your typical straight-to-video fare.
Well, I'm sincerely glad to hear that, for all our sakes.
Zombie movies don't have a formula that guarantees a final girl will emerge, or even a survivor, which allows these flicks to play fast and loose with who can get gotten. A teenage drifter seemingly out of nowhere, Jeff was capably fulfilling the role of main character until everything unraveled.
You're not gonna believe this.
So him getting a meat grinder death was a bit of a shocker. But then this is the kind of horror movie that was made outside Hollywood's stricture, where certain main characters are often equipped with plot armor. The way the film treated Jeff, in a more standard flick, he would take his licks, but he would survive, at least until the final reel. To everyone's surprise, it turned out the future aerobics instructor was the main character all along.
And I'm taking it very seriously.
All of this comes from a video store mainstay that found a way to live up to the box art despite being made for a mere $80,000. Probably an inflated number besides. I enjoy the whole notion of it. The perseverance it took to bring to life what at first glance seems like a strange little time capsule of the mid-1980s, packaged as an unusual zombie flick. The big bad could have been anything, really. Something evil emerging from an old television. The thing is, to get the most bang for your buck while respecting artistic vision, some films have to take a novel approach, and this one is placed firmly under that umbrella.
But exactly how does a TV set kill somebody?
Say you want to make a zombie movie, but maybe you don't have the budget to pull off a full-scale zombie apocalypse. Maybe you just want to do something unusual to distinguish yours from the pack. You don't want to step on the toes of the greats, but you want to make a mark. So you devise an original way to introduce your undead, with a distinct and singular eternal logic, built upon its own mythos.
TV don't kill nobody. It's what comes out of the TV does the killing.
No matter what the motive, the Video Dead takes a very inventive, clever route, putting their zombies firmly in the realm of the supernatural, unconstrained by natural laws. For that matter, the typical zombie rules don't apply either. In a time when rubber reality slashers were in vogue, and slashers in general were a cheaper, surefire route to horror success, it's commendable whenever anyone unconnected to Night of the Living Dead found a way to get a zombie flick off the ground. This one managed to find a unique voice, and musters a fair amount of charm as a result. Creating one of the more standout zombie variations and overcoming a low budget through ingenuity at the same time? Between exemplifying fantastic practical effects and offering a very original concept, The Video Dead kind of emerges as a classic, at least a cult one, a minor miracle for any straight-to-video product, in a time when that distinction came with the unforgiving stigma that it had to be lesser for not getting a theatrical release. In some ways it was a forerunner too. Evil coming through a TV screen would later be used to stellar effect and far better regarded films. I have no idea if April's demise was envisioned beyond what the film presented, but as it turned out, she became a symbol of pointless heroism, of needless sacrifice, of a young man's incredible need for intimacy, and how that need prompted really bad decisions.
You're making a big deal out of nothing.
Jeff was a disenfranchised Gen Xer watching in real time as his parents' relentless work ethic, and likely mindless politics, sold out his future. Is it any wonder he was willing to die to get him a piece?
Nah. Well, I really appreciate you telling me this.
The saddest part was that his simping probably put him in April's orbit the second he started putting off nice guy vibes. You don't lay the blame on a guy for something as unpopular as killing a dog, even accidentally, if you like him.
I can't take it anymore.
Well, I've about reached the end of the rope, so I won't leave you dangling. Thanks for enduring my prattle. Please share any refutations, opinions, accusations, japes, or other ideas in the comments below. And please join me for whatever I'm up to next time. Bye now.
Bye, creepy man! Keep it creepy!
He's a weird guy.
Goodbye!